Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to today's video. I'm your host Phil, and today's video we're going to talk about in-ear monitoring and the rack setup which I came up with for my band Tempest. Now this is one of the smallest in-ear monitoring racks which I've seen so far on YouTube, so I thought this would be especially interesting for you guys out there that I just showcase what is the thought process which went into this piece of equipment, what different gear components have we selected, and so on and so forth. So I'm just gonna freestyle everything, gonna go a little bit on a tangent, but let's first roll that intro clip. All right, in-ear monitoring. That is something which I would say at max 20 years ago was something which was very exclusive to high grade and pro bands out there. They were the only ones which could afford them, both, from a footprint size and both also from a cost perspective. But the market has radically changed within the last, I would say, at least 10 years, and things have shifted towards more budget-friendly options like we have over here. I'm super proud that we got this set up together. All of the bands which we play with, they're always super jealous. They're like, wow, this is so cool. This is so compact. We have such a huge rack when it comes to in-ear monitoring. The FOHs love this small form factor. They love how we set this up. So this might be interesting for you guys out there. Now, the story why we went for in-ear monitoring is I am deaf on one side, so I'm deaf on my left ear. So it's always a little bit hard for me to kind of distinguish my own guitar tone on stage when I have the amplifier behind me. And that also, because we're a 4-piece band, means that we were always very restricted in how we set up the things. I have to be in the center position because I need my amplifier on my right side. That means that the bass player also has to go on the right side and has his rig, and the other guitar player has to go on the left side to have his guitar rig kind of giving him his sound on stage. Now, a lot of festivals just have them reversed, so they have the bass on the left side and they have the guitar or the second guitar on the right side. That always was a major hassle because I could not hear myself. And Gaba also had his fair share of, so Gaba's our drummer by the way, he had his fair share of problems with the mixes which the engineers at respective concerts, venues and festivals gave to him via the monitor boxes. So at some point in time, we came to the conclusion, at least Gabo and me, okay, let's try it out with some in-ear monitoring mix, because we already have stripped down guitar rigs. I made another video, which I'm gonna link up over here somewhere, in regard of how we stripped down and downsized our guitar rigs to only pedal boards. Let me get my pedal board shortly and show you. So here you got for an example for such a board. This board allows me to run into a cabinet without cabinet simulation, but allows me also to go out via the more radar to any other source with an cabinet emulation that would then go into there. So you already see that we already began, before we were doing this in-ear monitoring stuff, that we began to downsize our rigs to, to a sizable amount so that you can just pick this up in a luggage bag or something, and that you can just take that with you. Let me put that back, and then we're gonna continue. So at one point in time, we then decided, Gabo and me together, okay, let's go with an in-ear monitoring setup. So we kind of made out a basic setup with a small mixer, and we were totally hooked from that moment on. I convinced then the other band members to give it another try with in-ear monitoring, and yeah, here we are today with a full in-ear monitoring set, which allows us to run silent stage setups, so we have nothing on stage making noise except for the drums themselves, which is super awesome, super easy to set up if you are playing in a respective venue with a good PA. Yeah, and as I said before, everybody loves this setup. It's super compact, it's very powerful, especially combined with the floorboard setups, and yeah, very flexible also. Okay, let me talk about the core components which we have, and then you're gonna understand a little bit better why this is so powerful or why I deem this so cool. We got at the heart of the operation the digital mixer. This is a mixer which you can configure via smartphone or via an application on your PC. So you have all of the different options. That also means that the signals which we are getting from The mixer, we can mix them by ourselves, which is really cool. Before I continue, let me shortly change the scene in OBS so that you get a close-up of the mixer while I'm talking about it. All right. XR18, as I said before, from Behringer. This is the Behringer X-Air XR18. What a name. There's also one version from MIDAS, the MR18, which is a little bit more higher quality when it comes to the preamps, but to be honest, I do not miss anything. This is a really, really cool piece of gear. Always worked well. The only thing which is absolutely crap is the built-in Wi-Fi over here. We got another solution for that, which I'm going to talk about at a later point in time. From the mixer on, you then have to send up your stuff. So as soon as you pump in everything into the mixer, it gets mixed over there, and then it's being sent out of the aux sends over here. As you can see, Simon runs a stereo setup, so he's using 2 aux outputs, and Daniel's using mono. Gabo is also using mono, and I'm also using mono. The third one over here we're using to send out intros and samples out to the front of house, which works really well. This is an awesome, awesome unit. In regard of the outputs over here, what I personally use then is the X-Vive U4. This is an amazing piece of equipment. This over here is the transceiver. This over here is the receiver, which goes in my belt. And this over here, you just pump it in here, you know. There we go. And you turn it on, boom, and you're good to go, you know. And then this sends out the signal, which comes from the output 1 to this particular receiver over here. Gabo simply gets an XLR cable to a small drum table where he has his stuff going on. He has like a small Behringer headphone amplifier. He has his kick trigger module on that, and a few, you know, cases for smaller hardware stuff and so on and so forth. So that just goes out to him. You could, in theory, also use the phone's output and route that respectively. Daniel and Simon go both, or their signal goes both, to one of these devices over here, which are the IEM-systems MEI 1000 G2T. Now, these are the stereo transmitters for the wireless stuff. I don't got the receivers currently to showcase you, but they're basically those normal body packs which you can set up with a belt clip. And yeah, they work really well. They work from a range perspective way better than the X-Vive U4, but I'm always kind of bound to my position as a frontman at the front of stage, so I'm always kind of safe in regards of range. So, and there are a few options which you can do in case you're having a little bit of an issue because this mixer is super far away or something. But no problems whatsoever so far. Now, another thing is the following, or another thought process which we had during the last, I would say, 6 months is we now have a wonderful mixer where we're sending out the things into for our in-ear monitoring mixes, then it gets mixed, and then it goes to our in-ear monitoring. That's super cool, and that's super fine. That works like a charm. But what about the front of house? The front of house still has to, if we're only taking this and these devices into consideration, still has to mic up the cabinets. We still have to kind of drive cabinets with power amplifiers and do the traditional setup, which was one of the thoughts behind this entire rig. We want it to be flexible so that we can cater towards any kind of event. If we do a conventional thing, we go with the power amps out. If we're doing in-ear monitoring, we go with this out. However, one scenario which we were not prepared for until recently was a silent stage setup. A silent stage setup is a setup where everything is silent. No monitoring on stage, no power amps being used, meaning no cabinets are driven on stage. Only the drums are making noises on stage. Everything else is being fed into the PA or coming from the PA to the audience. This was a setup where we were very, very skeptical if that's working out as we would think. But boy, oh boy, were we impressed when we did our first silent stage setup. So smooth, so incredibly good to play. It was awesome. I think I never had a sound which I liked more on stage, just having my in-ear monitoring set up, giving me the good guitar sound which I love, and, you know, having the crowd being pumped with the stuff on the silent stage setup. And for that, we use this device over here. This is the MIDAS DN 48160. What this does is the Behringer XR18 has the so-called ULTRANET connector. MIDAS and Behringer are the same company. They're both, I think Music Tribe is the name, but basically Behringer. And they both use the ULTRANET standard. So this is a proprietary standard from Behringer, which allows you to transfer the data or the signals from these inputs directly into the MIDAS and then have them set as outputs. That means that the front of house engineer can take, for example, if I go in here with my guitar signal, with the cabinet emulation on, everything on, preamp pedal on, cabinet emulation on, so I got my really cool tone, then the front of house can, in theory, just go to the same respective port, which is port 4, and take out that signal and run that into his PA. You usually would do that with stage boxes or with splitters where you have that. But this is kind of a digital splitter using the ULTRANET technology from Music Tribe. And this works fantastic. It's so cool with the MIDAS DN84. Let me showcase this by taking away this camera over here and then opening the XR app. When setting up the app for the mixer, you can set the ULTRANET output. So this is over here, the ULTRANET output of my Behringer XR. You can set this to different points where it's being taken off. So you can say either you just want the analog input, which we're doing right now. So basically what comes in comes out over here. But you could also, in theory, mix and do stuff which within the XR18. So you could do an equalizer setup or a compressor setup and then change the respective stuff over here. Okay, on the other screen, you cannot see this right now, but on the other screen, I got now this stuff where we got these different points over here. So we got these colors where I can select, for example, on ULTRANET 4, I want to not use the analog and the mute setup, but I want to use the post fader setup. Yeah. So now everything which I do, starting from the equalization to the compression to the effects which I send out on my mixer console over here, I'm sending that out to the ULTRANET output here on the pin 4. Of course, we don't want that right now, so we're going to put that back. But this is amazing. This makes this so much more flexible. I really cannot stress enough how this is a lifesaver and a game changer completely. Let me go back and set up the camera again onto the mixer. Now, this is awesome. This allows for silent stage setup. Our setup in total allows that we can either run the traditional setup where we're just using no in-ear monitoring at all, just miking up the cabs. This allows for a hybrid solution where we are using our in-ear monitoring, but we still want to power the cabinets, so that way the microphone setup, which the FOH made already, can be kept that way. That's very helpful if you're playing with like 5 bands or so, and to kind of reduce the changeover time, you just leave everything as it is. You don't have to stress the FOH engineer that he has to grab off his signals off my MIDAS console over here. Or you can use the silent stage setup, where you just completely take everything out of the MIDAS console and you're just running that. That's super awesome. I cannot stress enough how much I love this over here. Now that we know the different components over here of the mixer, let's turn around to the backside, and then we're going to talk about some extra steps which you have to consider in order to get the best out of your in-ear monitoring. All right, we're back over here. So here you can see the rear side of the mixer console, and you now see a little bit of chaos going on over here, but it's kind of a structured chaos. Let me just explain what we're having over here. So at the very top, we're having actually an AC power plug, which I then set up here together to this multi-sockets, so that we have all of the devices connected to the AC power plug, but with a single cable, with a single IEC cable, I think it is. These are 2 antennas for the transceivers, which are here down below. So the ones which I showed you before, the IEM-systems transceivers, these antennas are connected to each one of them. So that's really cool because we're running on different frequencies. They're not kind of interfering with each other. And we have the possibility to just, put them in there or if we need a little bit more of an extra range, just turn them out. To be honest, we never needed it, even on larger, you know, like medium-sized venues where 600 people or so fit in. We never had any issues. We never needed to clap them out. We always leave them kind of like there. And then over here, I got, oh wait, let me move my picture. Oh, move my picture to the side here. There we go. And then over here, I got two Ethernet ports, which are connected. One is set with computer, one is set with router. The nice thing about me being an IT specialist is that I know quite a lot about networking. I worked very long within the networking industry. So I have set this up so that you can either run this straight to a router, so that way you are using a double NAT scenario, which I'm not going to get that much into it, or you can either connect a PC so that you are directly connected within the same local network to the XR 18. Over here, what we have over here is a GL.inet, I think it's called a GL.inet router. Super small compact router. This over here is an entire Wi-Fi router with dual band Wi-Fi. My mind was totally blown when I first found out that this is possible nowadays, actually, because in my career, I'm used to big rack Wi-Fi routers and stuff like that. So this was really cool. This is a godsend. The only downside is that if you want to connect your smartphone, you cannot be too far away. Otherwise, of course, you're going to have bad connection. That's a little bit of a downside, but other than that, it really works reliable. The form factor is exactly what we needed over here, and it is fully capable of doing all we need. Yeah. What else do we got? We got this tray over here, so you can see that we got this tray, which stands a little bit out, but it really fits nicely when you put the cover on it. Oh, yeah, this is all the periphery, and this is kind of a thing which is hardened by experience. What I mean by that is we, for example, have a USB-C to Ethernet adapter because we had the situation that the router, for whatever reason, not this router, but another one, totally crapped out. So what did we do? We just connected our smartphone here via USB-C and then connected an Ethernet port over here so that we're in the same local network, and then we just did our thing on the mixer that way. Usually everything is pre-configured on this router, so there's only minimal adjustments needed from our side and also from the front of house engineer. He can do whatever he wants to do with the signals which we provide to him, and then we're golden. Yeah, this is a really cool setup. This rack unit is from Flyght Pro. This is I think a T-Bone or a Tomon owned brand, as far as I know. And yeah, that is quite heavy, boy. That is our in-ear monitoring rack so far. I think I have now covered everything except for this beautiful light over here. In case you need it, and you can do all the things. So, and of course, Mischpult is the German word for a mixer console. And of course, we had to rename this. This is the Moshpult. Haha. No, but apart from that, I think this is it, actually. I think we covered now all of the ground on this mixer. I hope that this inspires you to kind of build yourself a cool in-ear monitoring setup together. Eventually consider actually moving to in-ear monitoring. I personally can wholeheartedly recommend this. I'm super happy with how this turned out. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. If you liked what you saw, then please consider subscribing, liking, sharing, commenting, doing all of that YouTube stuff so that the YouTube algorithm gods push this video a little bit higher in the ranking. And yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out with me. This was a pleasure to make. Hopefully you learned something out of it. See you in the next video. Until then, keep it metal.